Welcome to Red and Yellow, the podcast about all things to do with refereeing at grassroots level, looking at the laws of football, speaking to guests, and trying to help you become a better referee, with Adam Humphreys and me, Ed Connell.
Hello, it's Adam here, and I just wanted to get in on this episode of Red or Yellow to say a couple of things. Firstly, please send us your questions. You can send them on Instagram, you can send them via email, any which way you want. All the links are in the show notes, and we absolutely love answering listener questions because that is what's going to help you become a better referee, and that is what this podcast is all about. Added to that, please hit subscribe and follow the podcast in your little podcast app, and that way our meandering chats will magically appear on your phone whenever we have a new episode to release. And just one more thing, just a reminder that all views expressed in this podcast are indeed that of myself, Adam Humphreys, and not that of Football Queensland. And now the legal stuff's out of the way, let's crack on with the show. Hello, Edward, how are you?
All right, thank you, Adam. Long time no see.
I know, you've been hiding from me in London.
I don't think I've been hiding. I think you've been busy, from what I remember.
I have been very busy, very, very busy.
Yeah. Congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I now have acquired a wife.
Since we last recorded, you've had your wedding. Did you have a honeymoon?
No, that's in October. Yeah, because we wanted to maximize the time of my parents being here.
Of course. And where are you going for your honeymoon?
Fiji.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Very nice.
I don't think I've ever been to the Pacific Ocean, so it'll be lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah,
looking very nice indeed.
Yeah, what have you been up
to? Mostly work. Mostly work. I don't think I've been on holiday since I saw you last, which is probably
that's a record for you,
but I don't think I have been away in the last 6 to 8 weeks. I can't believe that you decided to record this podcast of all the times you could have chosen in the middle of the first game of the Rugby World Cup. I thought that was rather bad timing on your part. I've had to leave a fairly exciting France-New Zealand game.
That would be a good game. Yeah.
Well, it was a good game. It got off to a great start.
When things happen like that in Europe, here in Australia, it's just like a non-event because it's just happening when you're asleep. Like you're just not aware of it. Like the Premier League, I'm so unaware of the Premier League because it's just impossible to watch it and live a normal life.
But Australia is a rugby nation. Surely you're gripped by the excitement of it all.
It's not. You'd be amazed how much people really don't care about rugby union here.
Oh, that's disappointing.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, I'm looking forward to watching rugby over the coming weeks and seeing how Scotland do. It's very, very exciting.
I can tell you now.
Do you want to be very careful about making foolish predictions, especially when your home nation, England, are playing pretty terribly and get beaten by everybody, unlike the Scots.
Right. But at least I think England are just trying to find out what it feels like to be Scottish on the rugby field.
Well, I think you may come to regret those words when we next record a podcast.
Okay.
And you went out in the group stages. But anyway, there we go. That's rugby for you. Okay. Another news with you?
I went to see a couple of Women's World Cup games.
Oh, yes, you did. I remember that. Yeah, were they good?
Yeah, they were. They were really interesting, actually. And it was nice. It was good. It was very interesting just to see, because we was quite close to the pitch at Suncorp Stadium, and it was just very interesting to just look at it through the eyes of the referee a little bit more in a live sense and stuff.
Is that Brisbane?
Yes.
Brisbane, where you saw your game? Yeah. And you saw an England game, didn't you? If I recall.
No, I didn't. I came very close to seeing an England game. I had the opportunity to have tickets twice, but I just couldn't put it together. One was like, it's a fair old trip from where I live, so I was very tired that day, and we was getting the house ready for when my parents came, and so we just I said yes, and then I said, actually, I just don't think I can feasibly do this. And then the next time I had an England ticket, I offered it to my uncle, and he didn't want to go on his own, and I didn't want to go without him. So, because I didn't think that was fair, I'd prefer to have sat there and watched the game with him. So we did that instead. Yeah, but it was good.
For people that can hear a dull drone in the background of my sound, that's because I've had to put the fan on, because although it's 9 o'clock here in UK in almost mid-September, the outside temperature is currently 27 degrees. Tomorrow is meant to be the hottest day of the year, into the mid-30s or something. It's absolutely roasting.
I honestly don't know what you're moaning about. That's just what life is like here in Australia, mate.
Yes, but you chose to go live there, so you have to suffer the consequences. I'm quite happy living in my my maritime climate, which is meant to be sort of temperate summers, not.
I promise.
September sun.
I promise I won't release any of the video footage of this podcast recording,
No,
because
you look
the best. Yeah, you look the best color of a beetroot. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
and
I think it's sunburned
clashes
last
with
Sunday.
your ginger hair. It clashes with your ginger hair.
I got sunburned refereeing last Sunday, actually.
You're a referee. How'd it go?
Yeah. Well, it was a one-sided game, and one-sided games are rarely particularly contentious. I mean, it ended up 13-0.
Oh wow!
And by the end of it, the only angst was between the players, the team that were losing quite badly. But it was a very pleasant and easy game to referee. Nice one to begin the season with. But it was really hot, and I gone out with my sun cream on, and yeah, but it was roasting. So I'm still recovering from that, I think, which is probably why I've got a bit of a ready break glow to me. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, do we have any news that we want to cover before we go into our law section?
I've got no idea. There's been a lot going on, isn't there? Have you seen that video of the player taking his shirt off before he scores a goal? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that one.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's a video going around of a player taking his shirt off. Like, so he's through on goal. The only person going to score a goal is him. There's no one around him, and he takes his jersey off just before he slides it across the line. And everyone's like, "What would you do? What's the thing? What would you do, Ed?"
What was the on-field decision?
I don't know. I think they awarded the goal. I don't know. They should have awarded the goal. God. They should have awarded the goal.
You teed this story up, and
because
we can't even debate it because we don't know what the on-field decision was.
Well, the on-field decision should be, well, what would you do? Let's do it like that. What would you do?
I know what you're going to say, because I listen. I'm going to say, well, the laws say that take your shirt off is infringement, should be yellow card, blah blah blah. And you're going to say, yes, Ed, but it's all about managing the game and expectations. And people don't want a match ruined for somebody who's through on goal, the goal being disallowed. The question there, over exuberant goal celebration.
The question there is, do you? Well, he's celebrated before he scored a goal. So do you stop play and disallow the goal, or do you award the goal and give a yellow card?
I think the latter, if we're being sensible.
Correct. And that is what the law says. Taking your shirt off is not a stoppable offence. Like, you don't stop play for it. There we go. You caution at the next stoppage in play. Excuse me. But other than that, other than Mike Dean getting himself into hot water with Chelsea fans, and
well, it's not just Chelsea fans. It's just he's come out with this ridiculously ill-advised comment where, in essence, I mean, this is what I find disappointing from a general refereeing perspective, because what he's effectively said is, we're not impartial referees, because on occasions we might make decisions based on having a mate on the pitch, and that just, I'm afraid, undermines the entirety of the refereeing community when you come out with ridiculous comments like that. And it just bolsters people's views that, refereeing is subject to partiality, and so that absolutely enraged me, I'm afraid to say. And
it's got nothing to do with the fact you're a Chelsea fan.
No, I don't worry. I personally don't hold grudges against individual referees. I mean, I know lots of fans have an issue because they have problems with certain referees who've been very bad. I just think it was just such a stupid thing to say. And then what I find even more embarrassing is his attempt afterwards to dig himself out, which I think further undermines him when he comes out and say, well, when I said mate, we're all mates on the day of the game. He's not my mate, and it's just,
I didn't see that.
It was just, Yeah, I mean, he was on, I think, on Soccer Saturday. He sort of
Right.
tried to explain it away
Backpedal.
and said,
Yeah.
"Well, we weren't mates," but the damage had been done, and I'm afraid at the moment it's really just added fuel to the fire for those people that think that VAR is actually a complete waste of time. And I'm one of those people who growing increasingly of the mindset that VAR is not improving our game
How
at
much?
all.
How much of the Women's World Cup did you watch?
I watched quite a bit. I can't. I mean, if I was honest, I was watching it more from the perspective of a sort of England fan rather
Yeah.
than sort of watching it from a refereeing perspective.
There was a couple of games I watched, and it literally looked like the referee would make a decision, and this I feel like this happened in the England game where is it Lily James where she got sent off? Is it Lily James? Have I got that right? Lauren James.
No,
Lauren
Lauren
James.
James,
Yeah.
Reece
Where
James's sister.
where
Yeah,
she got sent off, and I think this is like a prime example of kind of how VAR kind of spent a lot of the tournament sort of undermining the referees a little bit. And that's what I disliked about it. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a red card. Like, you can't tread on a player like
yeah,
that.
it's obvious red card.
However, what I would say is the referee on the day, she saw it. She clearly saw it. She made a judgment on it based on all of the context of the game and how she'd been refereeing the game. And she issued a yellow, right? Now, the fact that the referee has dealt with it on the field in that sense, like something that's like, like I know it should have been a red card. I don't disagree with it being a red card, but then again, I can also see an argument for the referee giving a yellow because it wasn't a stamp. She kind of trod on her. To call it violent, I think you can say she's getting up, she's moving out. Like you can come up with an argument to downgrade it to a yellow. I do, however, think a red card is the right decision there. But the whole time, the referee would make an on-call field judgment, similar to the handball against I think it was against Alex Greenwood. You know, I know it was our midfielder. Who's our really good midfielder? Kira Walsh. And like the referee sees it. Like she's there, she's made the decision on the field. And then VAR comes along and goes, actually, no, you've got that one wrong. You need to change your decision. Might be better for the game, but it actually then I saw a lot of referees feel like they were just losing confidence. And then one thing I noticed as well in the tournament is it felt like referees were constantly being fed what to do and what information to be had while they were trying to referee the game sometimes. There was a drop ball in one of the games. And you could see VAR or someone was telling the referee the whole time what to do. And you're like, it just felt like they were taking away the referee's ability to run their own game, which I found a bit what's the word? I found a little bit jarring.
I mean, I know this might be controversial, but I mean, I'm increasingly becoming the view that I think I'd be in favour of VAR being scrapped. The I'm fed up of the nonsense offside decisions taking 5 minutes, drawing of lines, someone sort of shoulders onside. I mean, I just think that I would rather just, and also I just hate that it takes away the excitement, the goals being scored, celebrations. I think just go back to what it was. The statistical success rates of the assistants were really very, very good. Yes, there's going to be errors. There's a margin of error in all these things, but I think we've gotten to the complete wrong end of the spectrum now. It's taking the fun out of the game. Most offside decisions are correct, and okay, we might have to suck it up and accept there's going to be a margin of error. And I'm afraid to say the handball situation, they've just got to sort it out. I know I've said it before. It was so straightforward before the handball law. Now it's just ridiculous. We're watching back footage and we're seeing it in slow motion 10 times over. And if
I
you have to
think
do that again, it's just not clear and obvious error. Just,
I agree. I mean, and that's the thing with that Lauren James incident, right? You watch it in real time at full pace, and it looks like, she's obviously made contact with her as she's getting up. But then when you watch the VAR and what the VAR is watching, they're like rocking and rolling, and all they're seeing is her foot making contact with the player's back. Like, that's all they're seeing. And they see that about 20 times in the space of about 5 seconds. And you're like, every time you see it in that manner,
it gets worse and worse in your head. Whenever you rewatch an incident like that, it gets worse and worse and worse. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was that bad when it first happened. Your brain kind of fills in those gaps, and then you start looking for what wasn't necessarily there to begin with. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with VAR. It's like whenever you watch a car crash in slow motion, it always looks so much worse. But in reality, no one got hurt and everyone was fine. So therefore, I think they need to back the on-field referee a lot more with VAR, because at the minute it feels like all they're doing is trying to find moments where they're getting it wrong, and I think it is undermining the authority of a referee.
And also, if you're talking about using VAR to deal with clear and obvious errors, it can't be a clear and obvious error if it's taking multiple views to look at it. It either stands out as a clear and obvious error, or it's not one. And watching something, oh, show me that angle, let me see it again, over and over again. I'm sorry, it's just ridiculous. And I think it was Henry Winter who I don't know if you're aware, but we've had 2 or 3 ridiculous VAR decisions over the last, since the season started. One where nobody can explain why it was that a player wasn't. I think it was a Man City game. No one can explain why it was that the player who was clear in offside position, clearly interfering with play, was not given off. And I don't think it even went to VAR. I mean, it's yeah. I mean,
Henry Winter's a good voice on football. He's a very reasonable
absolutely.
man. Yeah.
It was. I don't know if you listened to Gary Lineker's podcast that he started doing now with.
No, I don't.
Mike Richards. It's Mike Richards, isn't it? And
Alan
Shearer. And it's interesting. There was a sort of clip of that on TikTok, I think, this week, where they were sort of saying, "Which law would you change?"
Shin pads.
I know it's your shin pads, but Shearer's that handball law. Just go back to what it was. It was simple. Now it's just ridiculous. And Gary Lineker was offside is whether the feet of the player's offside. And, we don't want to be going back and sort of drawing lines and saying, oh, this part of the body was ahead of the other. Just keep it simple, keep it to feet. And I just think, I'm sorry, I think just get rid of VAR. It's ruining my enjoyment of the game, I'm afraid. And those people that say, oh, it just adds drama. No, it doesn't.
It takes drama away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the World Cup, it was just that sinking feeling I got watching England games when you knew a VAR review was coming. And I don't know what the stats are on it, but every time VAR got involved, it meant that it pretty much meant the referee's decision was being overturned. And so, and you're just like, well, you might as well not even get the referee to review it. If they go in VAR review, you might as well just cut out that 3-4 minutes and just be like, no, you need to review this. Therefore, clearly we know what the consequences are. Just go and change your decision immediately. It's just, Anyway, hey ho.
I'd love to see a poll of football fans to find out how many people would be in favour of getting rid of VAR. I think I'd be surprised it wasn't anything other than a very high figure.
I don't think the Luton Town fans would be in favour of it though. Could you imagine spending that much money on upgrading your stadium?
Yeah.
Just to fit in the cameras, and then Mr. Connell outlaws it from football.
Anyway, there we go. That's my rant over about VAR for time being.
And that's the news. Should we do some questions? We've got some, which I think are good.
Yeah.
Cool. The first one is I got on Instagram from one of our followers called Brody Simpson. And they asked, should refs take pride in handing out cards?
Well, no. It's the answer, isn't it? I mean, it's not a matter of pride. It's a matter of applying the law and doing your job professionally. And there's no emotion involved in any of what you do insofar as applying the laws of the game. You apply the laws to the best of your ability. But no, I mean, why would you take pride in dishing out cards? Sorry, if am I being a bit? I think am I meant to be a bit more sympathetic.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I think the question comes from a place of I wonder if she's seen if they've got a feeling of referees almost doing it too much because they enjoy doing it, because they enjoy a certain authority on referees and on players and
Yeah,
stuff
well,
like that.
but
Do you know what I mean?
that's
I
wrong.
wonder if
But
that's where the
wrong as
question's
well.
coming from. You know, I do take pride in giving out a card.
You take pride in giving out cards.
Sometimes, yeah. Like,
You better explain to me why.
I remember I had a game. I had a tough game. I think it was Logan Lightning versus Western Pride. And no, it wasn't Western Pride. It was South. Was it South United? It was anyway. It was FQPL 2-2. It was a tough game, right? And the first 10 minutes, there was a couple here, a couple there. You know, it was a tense game. You know, a high pressure game. One team's chasing the top of the league. Another team's a good, dogged. Oh no, it was a Wynnum game, and I think I spoke about this on the podcast as well. And you know, this tackle went in, and I went, if I nail that now, like I could have let it go. But I was like, actually, if I give the yellow here, then it might just help. And I gave the yellow, and then I didn't have another issue for the rest of the game. I took a lot of pride in that yellow card because the yellow card set the tone for the rest of the game, and it allowed me to control the rest of the game later. You know, it's like when you use them as an effective communication tool, as an effective man management tool, of course you should take pride in giving them out. I'm not saying you should go onto the pitch and be very arrogant and you're getting this because I can do that to you. I'm not saying like that, but actually with great cause and justification, and you can see the effect that it's had on your ability to control the rest of the game. Hell yeah, take pride on giving out cards.
But that's not really taking pride in giving out cards. That's just being proud of doing your job properly, right?
What's the difference?
Well, because taking pride in giving cards suggests that you're sort of making a big deal of it because you're giving out a card, right? Giving out cards is part of the game. What you can be proud of afterwards is I applied the laws properly. I made the right decisions. The timing of that yellow card was a really good, well-timed decision because it calmed down the game. You can be proud of your performance, but the actual act of giving the card out is not something to be proud about. That's just application of the laws of football.
Fair enough. I take your point.
And I think that if you're taking pride in, it's almost like saying, are you taking pride in sort of belittling and punishing players? Because that's what a card is.
I don't know.
And I don't think you should be taking pride in that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think that's fair justification. When I got the question, I was like, I've definitely been proud of giving out a card at the right moment at the right time, and it to aid my ability.
That I get. Yeah. But that I think is more about pride in your own performance than that you've done the job well. Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, yeah.
I've got another one from Michael in Brisbane. I know we've got a big post bag saying it's been 6 weeks. I have a question for you both. In the last podcast, you made reference to preseason games as a useful tool for boosting fitness as they were played at a lower intensity than normal competition matches. We all know that for many, there is no such thing as a non-competitive football game. How do you normally approach preseason games with age groups such as teenage boys who treat every game like it's a World Cup final?
Well, I disagree actually with the author of that letter, I'm afraid. I do think there's a marked difference. Sorry, Michael. Sorry, Brody. Sorry, Michael. He's in a bad mood.
Yeah, Ed is in a very bad mood today.
He's taking issue with everybody. Come at me if you dare. No, I do think. I mean, listen. I think I can say this. I'm one of the most competitive individuals, right? I play sport to win. If I enter something, yeah, of course. But I mean, it's pervaded my whole life. If I enter something that's got an air of competition to it, right, I want to win. But that said, there's degrees of how competitive you are. If I'm playing, in a sort of bit of a joke game or preseason game that actually has no consequences, it's all about sort of getting the squad together, nothing rides in it at all, I'm going to be less competitive than I am if I'm playing in a cup final or a title decider or relegation decider. And I think that is the same for people of all kids. I don't think that sort of 14-year-old kids go on to a preseason game thinking it's win at all costs. Of course, people want to win, but it's not done at the same game is never played at the same intensity as it is, in my experience, as both player and the referee, as it is for matches that actually have a consequence to them.
I think
you tell me, because you referee more preseason stuff than me.
I think preseason games can like any game, they can fall into disrepute. And I think when they do, it's usually because there's a discrepancy between the football being played and necessarily the control people might be associating to it. So you might get a couple of people on the field who are taking it really seriously, and then you might get a few people on the field who aren't taking it very seriously. Or you might get 21 men who are or boys taking it, or girls taking it seriously, and you get one who's just being a cock the whole time. And then as a referee, you kind of want to, you're aware of that person, and you don't want to spoil the game for everyone else, right? So like that person might put in that tackle. I just think at all times you have to take each game on its own merit, and however it will reveal itself in front of you. Like whenever I do a preseason game, I know some refs are like, oh, it's preseason, I don't want to get my cards out, whatever, and the rest of it. I'm like, you can't set that standard early because that just sets you up to fail, right? Like I've heard people say it to captains at the toss and stuff like that. And you have to, at all times as a referee, you have to punish the punishable. You have to control the game to the best of your ability. You might be able to get away with being a little bit more of a man manager than necessarily like using your cards to do that man management. But I mean, that being said, if I'm choosing that as opposed to if I'm making that choice because it's a preseason game, I'm making it extremely clear in no uncertain terms to that player. I'm not just going up to him and going, oh, like the conversation I'd be having with him would be as serious, probably one of the most serious conversations I'd have with a player, because I'm choosing not to use my card. So I need to put him on a different kind of warning and kind of make him scared in another way. And it's never easy. Look, I just think you have to go into every game willing to do your job properly, no matter what it is. And you just have to let the tone of the game reveal itself to you as to how you go in and then deal with that the way it goes. I think they can be banana skins preseason games, because you can have a slightly different attitude towards them, and that can cause you big problems. And you do have to be aware of it, and you do have to be very careful about that.
I do think what can be difficult for a preseason game is sort of how you set the tone, because I mean, I personally, when I do like a preseason game, I am one of these people that thinks, well, I don't want to be getting the cards out, because that's not what this game is all about. But there is a danger if you kind of don't do that and you let things slide and you don't sort of punish people and get the cards out when you should. There is a real danger that things can get out of control and escalate. So I think it's a difficult job for a referee. I don't have a problem with someone who goes into a game thinking, it's going to be more relaxed than usual. I might be able to have a word with somebody where ordinarily I'd get a card out. That I think is all very, very sensible. But I do think you need to alert to the fact that if players detect that there is a sort of different standard being set, and that you can get away with a bit more, the danger is that some players may take advantage of that. You suddenly find yourself with a situation where there's some sort of unpleasant challenges going. So I think it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, and I'm sure they do.
And there's nothing worse. It's just nothing worse than doing a preseason game and coming off of it, and all you're facing is abuse for because you failed to deal with it. Like it puts a bad taste in your mouth before the season's even started, and no one wants that. So I think you have to approach it like with all games. You have to just let it reveal itself to you, and you have to figure out how you're going to manage it as you go. And there are other tools available to you in a preseason. For instance, it's not normally substituted, so it's normally interchange, right? So if you have got a player being like a dick, or you want to punish in a way without getting a card out, you can say, look, I need you to sub him off. Like, this is ridiculous. He's got to go now. And I don't, and you can deal with it that way. So then you don't spoil it for everyone else, and you take away that, you isolate that player in that sense. And then if they refuse, you can go, okay, I'll just send you off then. But you can give people, you can manage the game in a slightly different way in that sense, if you feel like you need to. But your cards are still a useful tool. Your energy, your communication, everything still has to be up at a great standard. And also, players want to get up to speed as well. And part of them getting up to speed is getting used to working with a referee properly again. And so they need that experience as well in preseason. And you do as well. You need to get yourself sharp again.
Well, I was going to say that they are invaluable for referees, because the last thing you want to do, having had a sort of prolonged summer break, is find yourself refereeing for the first time a game that sees, first game of the season against two local rivals. There's always a bit of bad blood, because it's really tough to get back into things mentally and physically when you start refereeing again. So the advantage of doing sort of pre-season stuff is it's just a nice way of getting yourself, making sure you sort of match fitness is up again, and that you've got yourself in the sort of right mindset for refereeing. Because refereeing is has been exemplified by the detail that's contained in the laws of football. It's a mental task as well, because it's a constant, having to think all the time. Think if there's been infringement. If there's been infringement, thinking what the consequences are. It's a lot of thought goes on, and so you can't just sort of go into a game without having really sort of. You wouldn't expect anybody to go into a game without and probably sort of prepare themselves for it. So that's what preseason stuff is really good for. But yeah, there we go. Thank you very much for that question. Any other
And then
questions you
I've
want to
got
cover
one
in the
more.
post
Do you want to do another one?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. This came from a colleague, and it's apt right now here in Australia because we're in finals. It's everyone's sort of doing finals and stuff, which is good. It's the end of the season, which means I get to rest my legs. And this is like, what is the role of a fourth official? Like, how can you use a fourth official to the best of your ability? How can you help it aid your game? Generally, just outlining that. Have you ever worked with a fourth official, Ed?
I have worked with fourth officials, yeah, when I've done some sort of international competition stuff. So I'll give my very limited input, because you're going to have much greater experience of this. I mean, for me, their biggest job is to sort of control the touchline for you. So you don't have to worry as a referee about what's happening in the touchline. So you're not having to worry about people coming out their technical area, problems with sort of difficulties between the teams on the touchline. You don't have to worry about sort of making sure the substitutions are being done properly. It just takes away from you a whole raft of things that you don't have to think about, which then allows you to just focus on your game, which is the sort of the pitch. And so for me, that's kind of like the benefit of them. I mean, you obviously had used them in your current games all the time. So I mean, what additional benefits are there to having it?
I think I think it's a greatly misunderstood role, and I think a lot of that comes from the referees misunderstanding it more than anything else. Obviously, it's a difficult role because you're basically there to take abuse from the benches.
Yeah.
The best fourth official experience I had, the best and worst fourth official experience I ever had, was when I was fourth official for Patrick Vieira when he was coaching Man City under 21s. He was a delight. And then Steve Potts was the West Ham under 21s manager, and he was an absolute idiot. So that, it can be like that sometimes. So I just stayed near Patrick because I was having so much fun with him and just avoided West Ham. But generally, so I just thought I'd name drop. But generally, when I'm refereeing and I've got a fourth official, I still make sure, because we wear comms, I still make sure I have to be aware of what's going on over there, because it is still my responsibility. I can't completely offload the benches to my fourth official, because it's my game. I'm in charge of managing the game and he's part of my team. So I'll keep checking in with him, and I need to know if there's something coming down the line in terms of dissent or discipline or something like that. I think a fourth official is also there to provide advice to you. Almost don't think of them as a fourth official. Think of them as a third assistant referee. Like, when the ball goes out of play in front of him, like, he's there, he's part of your team, or she. Look at them, and if they've got an opinion on what way the throw should go, invite that, allow that. If they can see an issue coming with a foul or something, get them to be feeding information into you. I also think fourth officials generally probably need to, if you are acting as a fourth official, be so much more proactive. Like, walk between the benches a lot, talk to people, be a lot more involved in the game, because at the end of the day, you need to know what's going on, because if the referee goes down, you're the reserve referee, and so you need to know exactly what the temperature of the game is, all the discipline that's going on in the game, what players are causing problems, what players aren't, the general tone of the game, the feeling of the game, the emotion of the game, in case something happens to that referee. And if you've just stood there for, let's say, 70 minutes, kind of not doing a lot, you're not going to be in the right mindset to take over when you need to. So I think the more active you get, like I think whenever I have a fourth official, I set them a challenge of trying to hit 4K across the game, like just walking between the benches and sorting stuff out. Because that will help. That physical movement will really help them stay involved in if they do have to step into the middle.
Well, it also takes the heat off of you as the referee, because invariably, as we watch, when we watch professional games, when managers have got a problem with the decisions being taken, if there's no fourth official and you're playing to a Sunday league, they vent their anger at the referee. They're seeking their explanation from the referee as to why a decision's not gone their way. And when there's a fourth official, they invariably will go to that fourth official to speak to them, and so they can play a very helpful role in sort of trying to help managers understand why the referees take the decision they have done. But
and they should be really proactive in that. They should, if something's gone in, the fourth should step into, like I step up to the manager, I stand next to him and go, look, let me listen, let me understand, then I'll tell you what's going on. Let us manage it this way, rather than letting them come to you, because if they're coming to you, they're already going to be heated and it's going to cause a problem. That proactivity as a fourth official is really, really important.
Yeah, excellent question. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Bradley. Do you know what we haven't mentioned?
What's that?
In the news, we didn't mention it's our birthday.
Oh, it is our birthday, yeah. 1 year old this week we were. It's very exciting.
You know what reminded me? We're about to move on to do Law 13. I'm like, it's taken us a year to do 13 laws.
Well, there's a lot of laws. There's a lot of detail that we've discovered on our journey through the laws of the game. And we've still got a fair few left.
Come on, Ed, he said. We'll get the laws done. It'll be easy. I'll learn them all, and then I'll be able to referee this season a year later. Anyway.
Well, we've had plenty of things to talk about.
We have. It's been delightful.
That's fine.
Right.
So we're on to Law 13, which is free kicks.
It is.
And I think this is a pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is more about sort of the practicalities of free kicks. So anyway, well, we know that direct and indirect free kicks are awarded. That we know about. Indirect free kick signal. This is a good thing that's worth remembering. So when you indicate it's an indirect free kick, you raise your arm above your head. And importantly, and this is what people will tell you off for if they see you not doing it, your arm stays raised until after the kick's been taken and the ball touches another player, goes out of play, or it's clear that a goal cannot be scored directly. So the whole point is your arm is a signal to people that it was an indirect free kick and so it needs to touch somebody else. And your arm goes down once that has happened.
Can you please, if you're doing that, please, for goodness sake, make sure your arm is straight. There's nothing worse than a bent arm flapping around a referee's head.
Well, I broke my elbow. I'm not sure how straight my arm is these days, but I mean, I give it my best shot. I'm very mindful of the fact that, assessors are sticklers for things like straight arms and things like that.
So you call him a stickler?
I do my best. Try and get the simple things right. But yeah.
An indirect free kick must be retaken if the referee fails to signal that the kick is indirect and the ball is kicked directly into the goal.
Yeah, well, that's fine, isn't it? Otherwise, you'd be taking advantage of a refereeing error, which would be completely wrong. So
ball enters the goal. If a direct free kick is kicked directly into the opponent's goal, a goal is awarded. If a direct free kick, we all know you can score from a direct free kick, right?
Yeah.
If an indirect free kick is kicked directly into the opponent's goal, a goal kick is awarded.
These are really quite important to remember, because these sort of scenarios do occasionally happen, and they're not exactly what instinctively you would expect to happen, I don't think. So that's and the last one being,
if a direct or indirect free kick is kicked directly into the team's own goal, a corner kick is awarded.
Yeah, which is the one that you really, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that happen.
Well, I haven't either.
But you'd want to know that it's not a goal.
I did see like in the Ryman League once upon a time, a goal kick ended up as an own goal. So the wind picked the ball up and took it back over the goalkeeper's head, and it ended up in the goal. I can't remember what they did, but yeah.
Hopefully a corner would be.
No, why would it be a corner?
So it's a direct free kick that went into their own goal.
It was a goal kick.
Oh, I see.
I think it might have been out of the hands, but that's law 16. We'll get onto that.
Yeah. Okay. Next section is then procedure for free kicks. There's a couple of sort of things that I'm afraid to say there's a couple of parts of this which made me think again, this play hasn't been drafted by somebody who knows how to draft properly. So all free kicks are taken from the place where the offence occurred. That's the basic starting point, except indirect free kicks, the attacking team for an offence inside the opponent's goal area, are taken from the nearest point on the goal area line, which runs parallel to the goal line. Now, do you want to translate that for us, to the rest of us, as to what that means?
You think I can? Indirect free kicks to the attacking team for an offence inside the opponent's goal. So that's the 6-yard box, right? Are taken from the nearest point on the goal area line, which runs parallel to the goal line. So if something happens in the goal area, it has to, you have to restart play on the line of the 6-yard box, the goal area.
So you're
basically
taking a minimum of 6 yards away from the goal line, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Do you know why that is?
I did know this once, but I don't know off the top of my head now. So what is the reason for it?
That's because you don't want to be given an indirect free kick basically 1 yard off the goal line. Like, because you're just going to have a melee. Like, you have that, because obviously there's the 9.15 meter law, right?
Oh,
like
I thought you were going to quote some law at me that was just.
Oh, no.
not
It's just
avoid
there's just
an
common sense,
unseemly
right?
scramble.
If we can only have, like, it's not rugby. So if we can create some space between ball and players, then we should. Generally is the feeling there, I'd say.
And that must mean, although I can't think off the top of my head where you find the laws, but the players who would normally have to retreat 10 yards from a free kick are able to stand on the
That'll come up in
goal
this one.
line.
They have to stand on the goal line.
It does come up, is it? Fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
I know that's okay.
Free kicks to the defending team in their goal area may be taken from anywhere in that area. Yeah. So in the goal area, it doesn't matter what side it's taken from. Free kicks for offences involving a player entering, re-entering, or leaving the field of play without permission are taken from the position of the ball when play was stopped. Very important.
Yeah, that is very, very important. However, if a player commits an offence off the field of play, players restart with a free kick taken on the boundary line nearest to where the offence occurred. And for direct free kick offences, a penalty kick is awarded if this is within the offender's penalty area. So I think that's all pretty straightforward. Next section says the ball must be stationary. Well, we know that. And the kicker must not touch the ball again until it's touched another player. And is deemed in play when it's kicked and clearly moves. So again, I think everybody's familiar with that. And while until the ball is in play, all opponents must remain at least 10 yards from the ball, unless they're on their own goal line between the goalposts. There's the exemption I was just querying about.
Yep.
It allows players to be less than 10 yards away, but where there's an indirect free kick be given on the goal area line. And
outside the penalty area for free kicks inside the opponent's penalty area. What? Until the ball is in play, all opponents must remain outside the penalty area for free kicks that are inside the opponent's penalty area.
So it's a bit like a goal kick situation that.
Although it's not. Yeah, but until the ball is played. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then this is one that's most people I think are familiar with now from watching it on TV. But where 3 or more defending team players form a wall, all attacking players must remain at least a meter or a yard from the wall until the ball's in play. So it's just remembering that if it's a wall of 3 or more, then you have to have that gap with the attacking player.
I didn't actually know it was 3 or more. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's why it's kind of quite important to remember that, because everyone has in their head the idea that you can't be too close to the wall. Not everybody remembers the fact that it has to be a wall of 3 or more. So that's useful to remember. Free kick can be taken by lifting the ball with a foot or both feet simultaneously. I'm not quite sure what you were doing by lifting the ball both feet simultaneously.
Well, you'd like kick it upwards as opposed to along the floor to then volley it. To then pass it to a player to volley it, because you can't touch a ball twice. It's a bit of a weird thing to write in there, isn't it?
It's also a very weird thing to be doing.
I bet it's one of those things that happen in the Albanian Division 4 or something. They're like, oh, we need to write a law on this. Feinting to take a free kick to confuse opponents is permitted as part of football.
Yeah. And if a player, while currently taking a free kick, deliberately kicks the ball at an opponent, in order to play the ball again, but not in a careless or reckless manner or using excessive force, the referee allows play to continue.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would say whenever that happens, 9 times out of 10 it is in a careless or reckless manner. So I just wouldn't allow that to happen on just preventative management. Don't have players kicking balls at others.
Yeah, I agree. So offences and sanctions. If when a free, this is a bit exciting.
News to me. 13-3. Let's go. Offences and sanctions.
If when a free kick is taken, an opponent is close to the ball than the required distance, the kick is retaken, unless the advantage can be applied. But if a player takes a free kick quickly and an opponent who's less than 10 yards from the ball intercepts it, the referee allows play to continue. However, an opponent that is interesting. However, an opponent who deliberately prevents a free kick being taken quickly must be cautioned for delaying the start of the game. So,
you know what? That's really interesting because that happens quite a lot. Like a player will try and take a quick free kick and then he cocks it up and then he's appealing to get the free kick back because the guy wasn't 9.5 meters away or 9.15 meters away.
Yeah.
They'll always appeal that. And it's the idiot of the guy taking the free kick. You should have got the free kick right. Yeah, that's really interesting. Not often in football do the defenders get the advantage there. So that's worth noting.
And
go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that this is worth remembering again. If when a free kick's taken, an attacking team player is less than a metre or yard away from a wall formed by 3 or more defending team players, it's an indirect free kick. So, that's interesting. You just need to remember there's a sanction there if they're not that yard away. So that's good to know. And the next bit is, if when a free kick is taken by the defending team inside the penalty area, any opponents are inside the penalty area because they did not have time to leave, the referee allows play to continue. Well, then again, that's quite commonsensical. If an opponent who's in the penalty area when the free kick is taken or enters the penalty area before the ball is in play, touches or challenges the ball before it is in play, the free kick is retaken. So that's quite a subtle distinction there between those two scenarios, but
yes.
But important nonetheless, because this situation, I suspect, does probably arise occasionally.
Yeah. Again with that, it's just preventative refereeing, right? Like, just control the situation. Just don't let players be where they shouldn't be. Like, just tell them to get back before the ball is in play. Just you don't want jeopardy in situations like that. So just be proactive and take the jeopardy away.
And these are the scenarios that always catch you out as a referee, because
we're
90% of refereeing decisions are ones that we have to take and laws we have to apply on a very regular basis.
Yeah.
These are the Achilles heel of referees, where a situation happens like this, which is quite rare. It's provided for in the laws, but you've got to try and remember what the blooming laws are to get it right.
There's also a reason why you never end up in this situation. Like, you never see this in the Premier League, you never see this in the Football League, because they are being very preventative. They just wouldn't allow the free kick to be taken with a player in that position. Like, just get away, just move away, and then you can. And then like, it's all about don't blow it till it's on my whistle. Do you know, all those kinds of things. And you don't need to do that so much on defending free kicks in the penalty area, but it can get you out of trouble rather than you ending up in a sticky situation where you're trying to manage this. Just be proactive, use your voice, get players where you need them in order to make sure a restart can happen fairly and safely without ending up in these horrible situations.
Yeah. And then the last bit of that is, if after the ball's in play, the kicker touches the ball again before it's touched another player, then it's an indirect free kick. And if the kicker commits a handball offence, it's a direct free kick or penalty if it occurs within the penalty area, obviously, provided that it's not the keeper you're talking about, but in which case it'd be indirect free kick.
Mm-hmm.
But all pretty straightforward. And
pretty
then
normal.
So that I think there's nothing too surprising there. I mean, I think a lot of these things we've kind of come across before when we're talking about other laws. But do you want to do penalty kick?
Yeah, we can do. I was just going to ask, like, how much do you do ceremonial free kicks?
How do you mean by ceremonial free kick?
So, like, say we've got an attacking free kick, right? Like, how hot are you on, like, not letting them play the ball until you're ready, until you've marked out the wall, until, you know, like telling the goalkeeper and the player it's all on my whistle, checking with your assistant, like all of that thing. Like, do you do a lot of that or not?
I'm only really doing that in the final thirds.
Yeah, absolutely.
The rest of the time, not so much. I mean, the rest of the time, you know, it's not particularly controversial. If there's a free kick in the middle of the pitch, you know, and people want to take it quickly and people aren't that quite far enough away, I let them get on with it. Also, most people aren't that bothered about sort of being very close to the ball in the middle of the pitch either, so you don't have to pace out and the wall. And if you ask, you're generally being asked by the person taking the kick to get the player to move back, in which case you can generally, I mean, I generally think you can do it by just saying, you know, take a step or two back, you know, you don't maybe have to come over there and pace it out.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just about when you're getting into the danger zone.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, of where goals might be happening.
And I think that's the key with free kicks. Like, you know, as you move from defensive into attacking third, like you have to get a lot stricter on the way you manage it, the timing of it, the precision with which you apply yourself to a free kick being taken. And that's very important. You know, don't treat a free kick in the defending goal area the same as you would outside the D of the attacking penalty area. Like, you know, they are two very, very different situations and they definitely need to be controlled in very different ways. So just be very aware of that.
I'm very consistent in applying, you know, in doing the ceremonial free kick, as you say, in those final thirds. So I think you make a rod for your own back if, you know, on occasion you say, you know, take it as quick as you like or whatever, because I just think then there's just, you get inconsistencies and uncertainty, and it's just easier for everybody if they know that your tactic is when it's in the sort of the sort of final thirds. You want it to be on your whistle. You're pacing out the wall. You want to be in a position where you get the best vantage point. It just makes it easy for everybody.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question about quick free kicks. Like, I'm not a great fan of them. I allow them in very strict circumstances.
They invariably go wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, they just invariably go wrong.
Generally,
it's very rare that they're taken and the attacking team takes the opponents by surprise. It just rarely happens.
Yep.
And the annoying thing is when it does happen, it invariably leads to a goal, and then it's chaos because you're being criticised. So yeah, I generally, I'm not a huge fan of the quick free kick.
Yeah, I'm not either. You know, I'll slow it down a little bit. Yeah, I like taking time off the clock with free kicks as well, especially those ceremonial ones. Like late in a game, I'm taking my time, I'm getting it right, because sometimes you just need to kill the clock like that. They're a great opportunity of which to do that.
Have you been applying in Australia this season the new laws that have come in about timekeeping? I mean, or is that going to be something for next season? Because
so the law changes that affect us, we can't apply them until our next season because they go with the professional leagues, and our professional league runs concurrently with your professional league. But our other league, like our non-professional, semi-professional leagues, they run on the calendar year. So we're coming into the off season now, and our sort of kind of season starts February, March.
Would be interesting to hear from some of our referee listeners as to how they're finding the application of that new law by sort of adding on time for goal celebrations and obvious pauses in play. I mean, the reason why I asked that question, I'm interested in people, how it's being applied, people at grassroots levels. Obviously, we're watching at the Premiership at the moment, and we're having, you know, 10 added minutes at the end of the game. You know, the Arsenal Man United game at the weekend was insane. I mean, it was 96 minutes. It was sort of 1-1. Then Man United thought they'd scored and went a goal up. And then in the remaining minutes of the match, the clock eventually ran to 11 or 12 minutes of added time. Arsenal scored 2 extra goals. I mean, there is an expectation now from the viewers of Premiership games that you're going to get a lot of time added on, and they expect that the clock's being stopped for pretty much everything. I'm just intrigued to know what it's like at grassroots level.
No,
I suspect that they're probably being a bit more, referees are being, as I was on Sunday, a bit more mindful of the fact that people are expecting to be adding on time. And I definitely added on more time on Sunday than I would have done last season. But I mean, I wasn't stopping the clock after, every time a goal was scored.
I mean, on a couple of things I'd say with that. One, you haven't got a fourth official, so it's a lot harder to be accurate on that. Like, I think, like, stopping and starting your watch as a referee, every time I stop my watch as a referee, I forget to bloody restart it. And it's
well, you know what you need, Adam, don't you?
Don't get started.
You need Ref 6. And do you know why it's so good?
This is not a sponsored ad. Yes, but I don't like using an iWatch in wet weather.
Do you know why it's so good? I don't know.
Does the clock start when it picks up your heart rate or something?
No, but what happens is, so when you pause time, say for an injury, you will get sort of every 10 seconds a vibration on your wrist reminding you your clock is still paused.
That's interesting.
Which is really, and you don't miss it. It's a constant reminder.
Yeah,
and it's really, really good.
So I just have assistants, and I just get them to manage it.
Yeah, well then you're lucky you've got the luxury assistants. I'm lucky I've got two man his dog on the touchline. So
that's a good point. That's a very good point. Like, but that's the thing. Like, that's one of those things, isn't it? That I'm gonna have to be so much more better at managing when we go into it. I would say as well. I don't know. I just don't think the expectation will be there for 10 minutes added.
I know, I agree, but there's definitely a mindset now that people are expecting referees to be a bit more fastidious in terms of pausing the clock.
In terms of my job, that's going to be a nightmare trying to schedule referees, because often referees do back-to-back games and stuff. Like, how's that
another problem?
You're going to end up with no referees on games, or games running really late because of it.
Well, that's a problem because a lot of teams will have a sort of limited time slot to play their match on a Sunday park.
Yeah.
Other teams on the touchline went to go ahead, and if you've got a cup game, for example, where you've then got sort of potential for extra time, that's a real nightmare. But what I was just going to say, whilst we're talking about that, I wasn't meaning to plug for Ref 6, although obviously if they want to give me a free subscription for the year, I'd be very, very appreciative. But it doesn't make me think that we should do an episode based on referee equipment and tech.
Haven't we done that? We've definitely discussed it several times.
We've talked about it. We've talked about what sort of equipment you need, blah, 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 blah. But in terms of things like pros and cons of having comms,
how to manage it, how to
buzzer flags, the sort of different types of watches.
Have you seen A&H International getting back into business with touchline flags? Yeah.
Must be very exciting for you being a touchline flag enthusiast.
But, I don't use buzzers. I've never used buzzers. Oh, really? Now I've got comms. I don't need them. So I use touchline flag, normal ones. And
Comms are great, and you can get comms kits for so much cheaper than you can get for buzzer flags. That's why I don't. You can get. I mean, I've seen some stuff online where you can get like comms kits for sort of, I don't know, under £100. Whereas
I would say be careful though, because if the FA find out you're using comms, a level 5, a level 6 game,
I'm not suggesting that you should be using them when you're not meant to use them. But if you are using them, then they're not cheaper than buzzer flags. But anyway, there we go.
Cool. Should we do the penalty kick?
Yeah, you can do. We are sort of.
What's the penalty kick in it? How long is it going to take?
Have you seen?
There's a little table at the bottom.
Yeah, there's quite a lot.
All right. Should we leave it till next week? We say next week. It's going to be another 2 months, isn't it? Actually, no. I'll tell you what. Have you got Eds Fun Facts? Because I've got some fun facts. Not fun facts, but I've got something fun I want to share. Can I hijack Eds Fun Facts? I know this is going to perturb a lot of people.
This is controversial. This wasn't discussed in advance.
That's right. This wasn't a pre-production meeting, was it?
And don't think, Adam, that this will affect our negotiated remuneration that was negotiated on the basis of me getting extra for the fun fact section. I'm not going to give up my share of that. But if you want to have my fun facts week, that works out very, very nicely, because I had anticipated we were going to get onto penalties tonight, and my fun facts are all about penalties. So I'll save those for next time. God,
So-
he's getting his notebook out.
Oh, mate,
Listeners,
I've got more than a notebook. I've got a laws book in my hand, which is going to become a rarer and rarer thing soon because it's all going non-printed into obviously online and stuff right now.
And hold on. I'm going to be very magnanimous here. I'm going to let you use my jingle.
I was just about to say, do you want to do the Q jingle tagline? Go on.
Cue jingle.
It's now time for Eds Fun Facts.
That wasn't bad.
Yeah, I know.
I'll accept that. So the other day I was sitting at work and I've got to write a document for first year referees, like a handbook thing. And there's like a bit of a structure on it and stuff. And one of the questions on it that someone had put, like, just to help us outline what we're doing is, what's the difference between an acceptable foul and a non-acceptable foul? And how do you make that judgment? So I was kind of looking around and I was like, that's really interesting. And I discovered there's no actual definition of what an acceptable tackle is in the laws of the game, right? So nowhere in the laws of the game does it say this is what a tackle is.
Force. Yeah.
So we're only ever going into it with a negative mindset, right? So we're only ever going into it looking at it going, if it doesn't tick all of these, then it's an acceptable tackle. However, I found that quite fascinating, although it makes sense. So whenever someone says, "Oh no, well, that tackle should be allowed because I won the ball," that doesn't actually exist anywhere. That's not a fact.
That's a really interesting point, because the first thing that people will say to you is, I got the ball, my follow through might have caught him, and so no one actually defines anywhere, do they, in the laws of football, what a tackle is that is lawful?
Absolutely. So, and then I got into a discussion with my boss about this, and my boss knows everything about everything with the book of the laws of the game. And he was like, the way we decide on this is known as considerations. I was like, what are you talking about? And I've heard people talk about considerations here in Australia quite a lot. And like we're told to go through all of these considerations when we're making a decision, like whether it comes down to DOXO or whether it comes down to what is a tackle with excessive force and stuff like that. And he pointed me to a part in the laws book. Now, this is the laws of the game 2022-2023 that's been printed by Football Australia. And in the back of the book on page 127, all the way up to 136, it has considerations for each thing that you might have to figure out on the football field. And it's some of the best written coaching I've ever come across. They're all just questions. There's 357 questions on any particular topic of making a decision on the football field. So the first section is fouls and misconduct. So in order to decide whether a foul is careless, this is the list of considerations you have to go through in the book. There's 7 of them. Does the player show a lack of attention or consideration when making the challenge? Does the player act without precaution when making the challenge? Does the player make unfair contact with the opponent when making the challenge? Does the player have a chance of playing the ball in a fair manner? Has the challenge been committed in a careless manner? Has the player charged the opponent in a careless manner? Does the player commit an offence by carelessly leading with the forearm or extending arm making contact with the opponent? And if you go through all of those considerations and or if you match 2 or 3 of them or one of them, you can decide whether the foul is careless. And what's really interesting about this is these considerations don't exist in IFAB, and therefore they don't exist in the FA's laws of the games that they've printed. They don't exist in Scottish FA's ones that they've printed, because they only use the IFAB laws of the game. It's crazy. So like when you're looking at interfering with or stopping a promising attack, a spar, there's 16 considerations on whether you need to give a yellow card and you believe a foul was a spar.
So where's this all coming from?
This is the Football Australia. So we call it the FA here, which is very confusing for an Englishman.
Yeah.
Football Australia laws of the game book. I'll show you that. There's loads, all those questions. Like simulation, how to establish whether someone's simulating, whether someone's establishing DOXO. It's got I can't do the
And
maths on that.
do we know if they've ever
14.
featured in the laws of football? Because you know what's quite baffling is
Quick free kicks. I've just seen quick free kicks. Sorry, mate.
I
Go on, I'll come back to that in a minute.
don't think anywhere describes what a free kick. I mean, so what a tackle is. I mean, there's nothing, and so some people might be misapplying the laws because they've got a misunderstanding as to what's a legitimate tackle, what's not a legitimate tackle. So, is this your new campaign to get the FA to reintroduce into the laws of the game all this criteria?
No, my campaign is still shin pads. I'm not giving up on that.
Okay.
But it's really interesting. So quick free kicks, which we were just discussing. Does the defending player prevent a quick restart? Should the referee allow a quick free kick in this situation? Was the ball stationary and taken from the correct location? Was the free kick a situation that required no management? Did the referee start to control the defending players but allowed the free kick to be taken? Had the referee already started the disciplinary proceedings but allowed the quick free kick to proceed? Quite hard to say. Did the referee take the appropriate disciplinary action as a result of the offence committed at the next stoppage in play?
See, those are all.
Sense,
I mean, that all makes sense. They're all. I mean, they are for people that are very familiar with refereeing and football. The sorts of criteria that we instinctively apply in a fraction of a second when we're refereeing games. But it doesn't do any harm to occasionally go back and sort of remind yourselves as to sort of the sorts of things you should be taking into account. I don't know why that's not
it's incredible, isn't it?
IFAB.
There's 357 of them, and honestly, they do. I know I use them, like especially deciding a dog zone. So we had a coaching night a little while back with this guy actually. He's in the book, Alex King, and he's a Queensland referee. He's a lovely fella, really nice guy, A-League FIFA referee, and he was talking about Dogso, and we was going through Dogso decisions and stuff like that, and he was like, "What are your considerations?" And I'm just like, "Well, you look at this, you look at that, you look at this."
Yeah.
I had no idea he was talking about this part of the laws book of the Football Australia laws book, right? So dogs, and one thing that he brought up was, has an opportunity been denied? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, has the opportunity to score a goal been denied by someone? And I was like, I'd never considered that when deciding on a Dogso. And I wonder if it's in here. I've not read it, so this would be interesting. So for Dogso, was an offence committed or not? Obviously. What is the distance between the offence and the goal? So how far away are they? That decides it. What is the likelihood of the player keeping control of the ball? What is the likelihood of the player gaining control of the ball? What is the general direction of play? How many defenders are involved in a situation? Where are the defending players located? Is the offence punishable by a direct free kick or indirect free kick? If no offence is committed, would the attacking player stroke team have an obvious opportunity to score a goal? And that was what Alex and I were like discussing. If nothing happened, would he have had an obvious opportunity to score a goal? If so, that's a Dogso. I was like, that's crazy. Does a player commit a handball offence to deny the opposing team a goal? Does the player hold, pull, or push an opponent? And it just goes on and on and on. Handling the ball. You know, your little campaign about handball, I bet this would really help you. I'll send you a photo of it and you can discuss it next time.
Yeah, and also I'm going to do another bit of homework because, as ever,
if you're giving me homework, I expect more of a fee.
As I was looking at Dogso Law again at the weekend, as I always do before I referee any game.
Bless you.
Because it's is a bit of a mind block for me. It doesn't talk about Dogsos outside the penalty box.
Yeah, it does. It does.
What? Right.
Because it talks about them inside the penalty area. So anything outside the penalty area, where is it? Fouls. What laws?
Where a player commits an offence against an opponent, 12. Where a player commits an offence against the opponent within their own penalty area, which denies the opponent obvious goal scoring opportunity, then it describes that. It doesn't talk about outside of the penalty area. And it got me
Observe.
then thinking,
Where a player commits an offence against an opponent within their own penalty area, which denies an opponent obviously cocks for an opportunity, the referee awards a penalty kick. The offender is cautioned if the offence was an attempt to play in all of circumstances. Where a
Yeah.
player denies the opposing team by a handball offence. Yeah,
doesn't talk
Right.
about Dogso outside the penalty area.
no, it does, and I'll tell you where it does. It does it under red cards. Is it the referee?
Anyway, but should we
Yeah, okay.
you can get the answers next week.
Isn't
'cause
that
I'm-
interesting?
do you see what I mean, though?
Yeah,
You go
I do know what you
so-
mean. You go on to that
So
one.
if you're
it's not in
looking
there.
if you're talking about Dogso, you look up Dogso in IFAB. That's what it takes you to, and it defines Dogso in the penalty area, right? And if you were to read that, you would think to yourself, so it's not a Dogso if the foul is committed outside the penalty area. Now, you might be right. It might feature somewhere else in the laws of football, but that, for me, was a slight anomaly. And
So
if you read that
under
literally,
send-off offences, denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity to an opponent whose overall movement is towards the offender's goal by an offence punishable by a free kick, unless as outlined below. And then under there, it goes into Dogso again. The own penalty area. Oh no, hang on. It
No,
must be
see,
in there. It must be in there because we know it's a red card outside the area,
we do know
a yellow
that.
card inside. So that
We
must
do
be
know
written in
that.
there somewhere.
Right, that's your job for next week, Adam,
All right,
to solve the mystery, because it had me baffled the weekend. And do you know what it ended up me doing? Bloody going to Google to make sure that I wasn't going mad.
You're not going mad. It's definitely in there. I promise you.
Good. Well, that's something for us all to look forward to on our next episode. Right. I think that's probably it, Adam, isn't it?
I think it probably is. Yeah.
It's late.
I hope you
shattered.
I hope you like my fun facts.
They were very fun.
All right, my friend.
Very fun indeed. I'm not sure to let you hijack them again, but
no, that's fair. Always a pleasure.
Nice to see you. Have a lovely weekend, and see you soon. Take care.
Right. Bye.
Thank you for making it to the end of another episode of Red or Yellow. You're clearly a very fit listener. May I gently remind you to like and subscribe to the podcast in your podcast app. That way, each week when we release a new episode, our meandering chats will magically appear on your phone. Don't forget, you can also get 10% off any refereeing equipment that you need. If you're in Australia, just head to www.processports.com. And if you're in the UK, go to therefereestore.co.uk. And then just use the code REDORYELLOW10 at checkout. Thank you so much for listening this week. Don't forget to follow us on social media. It's at Red or Yellow Pod. And we cannot wait to speak to you again very, very soon. Ciao, ciao.